Hey guys, so I'm here in a homeowner's pool room, and I installed a new pool sweep, but I found that this valve here was leaking. This was last week. I just came back to repair it. I just wanted to show not only how to repair the leak, but also show how I found it and how these valves can be serviced. Because they can be serviced. This one can't be because you can see there it's got a nice little crack in the body of it, and when you turn the pump on it does spray water out through those threads there. So this particular valve we don't need because you can't see it here, but these pipes go to the solar. Those two valves are turned off, so the solar isn't needed on this system because they actually took the panels off of the roof. But you can see the routing of this water, or of the plumbing rather. The water comes out of the filter after going through the pump, runs along here, comes on up into this valve here, and then it turns. If the valve was turned this way, the water flows on through to the pool. I'm going to turn that off. If the valve is turned this way, it would force water up through the solar. Well, since we don't have solar on this, what we're going to do is actually eliminate that valve, because to replace that valve would be, to the homeowner's cost, it would probably be a couple $100, both labor and parts. So what we're going to do is actually replace it with just a simple 90-degree elbow. That'll close off this side of the plumbing that they don't need. We'll put a little cap on it, or make it so at least they can reconnect it if they do ever want it again. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to pull apart the valve so we can inspect it. I want to see how how we would replace the parts that you might be able to service. So first thing first, we take this handle indicator off. I like to use my drill. If you don't have one, you can use a regular Phillips, and that'll work just fine. Just a word of caution, if you do this and you're using a drill and you're putting it back together, be careful that you don't crack the body when you're torquing down these screws again. And since we're not worried about putting it back together, we're not going to be overly gingerly on this. So you can hear the pump or the filter is going to drain out a little bit. But basically all these are, you can see here, there's a little O-ring. Not sure if you can see it. See if I can find a little piece here. This little body O-ring there, you want to make sure that's lubricated and not smashed down. So that's one area where it'll leak. The other area where they like to leak, I'll get rid of that. When it's all together like this, it'll leak out of the top right there. So there's two O-rings in the spacer in most of these. So you can see it right there, I hope. So again, you want to make sure they're lubricated with some silicone. Don't ever lubricate these with Vaseline or anything, petroleum type jelly. Always use a silicone or a Teflon based lubricant. So you got those two O-rings right there that can be replaced. Sometimes this stem will break off, so you have to replace this entire diverter valve. So just make sure you get the right one. And then of course we have this seal here. These usually don't need to be replaced, but if they do, a couple of screws there, pop right out, pop that face off, and then you can replace the seal. Usually I find when it comes to that, I just replace the entire diverter. It's easier, you know everything inside is working good. So that's that. The inside of this, there's not much to it. You know, you can check the bottom for debris. There's usually not going to be anything, as long as the valve itself hasn't been fiddled with. Alright, so when we when you're doing a job like this, you can't always be 100% certain until you open everything up that you're going to be able to do it. But I just want to show kind of what the idea is here. Hopefully you can see it. Sorry for the shoddy camera work. There we go. So we're going to cut right along the body of the valve, and instead of keeping all this plumbing over here, I'm actually going to cut down into here, and we're just going to do a straight piece that's going to connect those two. And the reason for doing that is that basically we don't need that valve anymore, so we can eliminate it. Sorry, let me get you set here. We can eliminate this valve and this extra plumbing and 90s, so that basically it'll improve the head on the system, which is friction, on water friction basically. So I'm going to cut those out, and then I'll show you what it looks like afterward. Oh, you know what, I just forgot. So a couple ways you can cut PVC plumbing. You can use one of these. Basically goes over the pipe, and then it ratchets. You can kind of see it there. Or you can use a handsaw, PVC ABS handsaw. These make quick work of it, and this is actually what I'm probably going to use. Or you can use a sawzall, or a reciprocating saw, as they're called. All are good options. I don't particularly like this one because the blade gets dull, and it tends to cut on an angle if you're not centered just right, and of course if the blade isn't right or isn't sharp enough. So I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to actually use this handsaw, mainly because I haven't, and I didn't remember to bring my reciprocating saw today. Alright, like I said, we're going to cut right here. That'll give us plenty of meat on the back side of this to attach a fitting to, and then we're going to bring it on down here and we're going to cut that right there. Alright, so it's as simple as just kind of starting a line back and forth. Your cutting action is actually when you pull back on this particular saw. Some are the other way around. Don't be bashful. Alright, so cut those 3 spots out. Again, this leads to the solar, so we don't need that anymore. We're just going to connect these 2 pipes. Probably 245s will do, but we got to clean all this up with a little bit of sandpaper, and then I'll show you what to do from there. Alright, so we cut that one. We also cleaned it up, you can see, with the sanding paper. Oh, just so you know, this sanding cloth, this is designed for plumbing use. You can pick up rolls of this at any of your home hardware store. But yeah, you just wrap it around. And for stuff like this that's painted, you want to get down to the raw stuff. Otherwise the glue won't set up. You won't have a good bond anyway. Kind of out of focus there, aren't I? There we go. So anyway, I cut all my lengths, well, my one length. You can see it's a little long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this one fitting up, because the fitting always slides back a little further once you glue it up. And then we'll do our final measurement based on this one moving back about 1/4 inch or so, 3/8 maybe. Before I glue it, we'll come back to that. Alright, so real briefly here, you can see this purple stuff. That's not glue, that's primer. So that's why we scuff up the plastic first. We want it to accept the primer, give it a chance to dry up. That way it's ready to accept the glue that we're going to put on it. And so, just so you can see it, where did I put my bottle? Oh, here we go. So this is the primer that we use. Odie, it's pretty basic purple primer. I get the small jars because inevitably they always spill, so I figure I'll waste less money that way. And then I use the red hot blue glue for PVC pipes. This is good for wet applications like swimming pools. So let me glue up this one, and then we'll measure that one up and see what we got to do from there. So you can see after gluing it, this one did slide back just a little bit, and this one will continue to slide back once we glue it. This one also will slide down further into the socket once we glue it. So we're actually right about where we need to be. If you get the brand of fittings that has these mold lines, usually that mold line is right on the inside or opposite side of the stop on the inside of that socket. So you can see we're back, I guess about quarter inch maybe. So the trick is getting this inside. So we have a little bit of movement there, so we should be okay. Once this slides down and that one slides over, we should have enough room to get that on the inside. So now I'm going to prime the rest of these and then glue them all in and see how it goes together. Alright, so there's the finished product. You can see I've made a little bit of a mess with the cement. Usually I put some cardboard down or something, but when it's cement like that, generally once it dries, you can just peel it right up. Get a little putty knife or a screwdriver or something, just pops right up. So don't mess with it when it's wet, because you'll smear it, and you'll smear it into the concrete. So usually when it's wet like this, it sits above the water too while it dries. This stuff actually floats in a bucket of water, if you've ever seen that. So you see that joint pulled back just a little bit, but it should still be okay. There was plenty of glue, good coverage on the glue. Got a nice bead on that one and that one as well. So all of them look pretty good. So like I said, this was just a real quick little video. Wanted to throw it together while I had the chance. Sorry, I'm a little sweaty. It's kind of hot in this box. So just make sure when you're doing these PVC pipes, you glue them, measure them, let the glue set before you put the system under pressure, and then you shouldn't have any problems. Make sure you're wearing your safety glasses. Make sure you're wearing your gloves. This stuff is fairly toxic. And make sure when you're in a room like this, you have ventilation. This room happens to have a door and a window. Of course, the window's kind of closed up, but there's not too much fumes in here. We had some pretty good air movement. So just make sure you follow those safety precautions. This isn't rocket science. Literally, you could read the back of the bottle of the glue and it'll tell you what to do. But worst comes to worst, hire a professional and we'll come out. There's more than one way to do this too. I know the way that I measured it out wasn't an exact science. I was just trying to show you a quick and dirty way to do it. Like I said, the glue job is kind of funky and not the best. So I'm sure I'll get some comments on the hack work that I'm doing and making a bad name for people and this and that. But you know, sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures, and the do-it-yourselfer homeowner sometimes needs this kind of stuff. And even the professional, when you're in the field, people don't teach you this kind of stuff. You know, you can read about it, but you really don't know what you're doing until you actually do it. And you saw the plumbing job that was in here before. There was just way too many 90s. This is going to free up some water friction, also known as head, which will make that pump run a little smoother and water flow a little easier. So hopefully this is of some value. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you want. If you don't, you know, that's okay. I won't hold it against you. There's plenty of fish in the sea, as they say. So hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next one.